The Nigeria Education Loan Fund, NELFUND, has disbursed more than 154 billion naira to support over 700,000 students across 262 public tertiary institutions nationwide. Managing Director of the fund, Akintunde Sawyerr, says the disbursement included more than 82 billion naira paid directly to institutions for students' fees and over 72 billion naira released as upkeep stipends, with beneficiaries receiving a 20,000 naira monthly allowance. But there are still major issues and controversies trailing the fund, which includes eligibility limitations, repayment enforcement fears, risk of politicization, among others. Now, the man in charge is here with us in the studio in Lagos, Managing Director of NELFUND, Akintunde Sawyerr. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruben Abati. Nice to be here. Hello,
okay.
Ayo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Sawyerr, we all seem to agree that it's a good initiative of the Tinubu administration. I don't know whether you disagree, but there's some opinion out there that this is a good initiative to help categories of Nigerians. But let's deal with the controversies. One, the exclusion of students in private universities, which is not of their choice. Many middle-class families would have preferred to send their children to public universities if, they met a situation that would serve their purpose. Two, repayment options, which is based on employment and income. Now, most of these people, they will enjoy NELFUND, but they may not get jobs. There are persons who have been on the unemployment roll for 5 years, 10 years, even after graduation. And then the third issue is about the inequity. Why say, only the persons who go to public universities will benefit? That looks like discrimination, which is frowned upon under Section 42 of the Nigerian Constitution.
Thank you very much. I think the first question and the last one are the same. Am I right?
They are related.
They're related, okay.
That's how I would put it.
All right. Thank you very much for the question and for highlighting the controversies. I think dealing with the first one, I think we need to recognize that in any situation where you have issues, there are a number of complexities. So in this particular case, we have the complexity that we are a nation with a very high number of youth. So over 70% of our 230 million plus people are under the age of 35. We have a problem in that most of them are not either educated or are not educated to the level that they would like to be, primarily because they don't have the funds. It's a resource issue. The law is trying to fix a couple of things. First of all, it's trying to fix the fact that people who want to get education at tertiary level should be able to. They should be able to access it in an environment where resources are limited. The second issue is that there's been a significant degree of underfunding of publicly owned tertiary institutions. I don't want to take anything away from those who have invested in private institutions, because they came to the rescue of education when we had issues over the years of strikes and neglect in the public sector. So the private investors have come in and they've tried to rescue education, and they've done a great job. My discussions with His Excellency the President, whose vision it was to bring this to the fore, is that he would like to see all Nigerians get it. And I think that will happen. When the resources are there, I think that we will have to go back and amend the law so that all can get it. The point is, there is political will to support every Nigerian having access to this loan. Your second question was around, please remind me, because it escaped me for now. I didn't take notes. Equity. Exclusion.
Certain persons.
Well, you're referring to the exclusion of people who are in private institutions?
Yes.
Well, I think I've kind of addressed that. The exclusion is a temporal thing, in my view. I think once we've been able to cover those who really need it, then we will look at those. There are a couple of things going on. The private sector institutions tend to charge more. They tend to. Not in all cases. We also don't have accurate information about the financial capacity of people, but we are using a little bit of a blunt instrument at the moment to say, look, people who are short of money tend to go to the public sector. But I am certain that if we make a success of this, the law will change, it will expand, more people will be more interested, more people will go to public sector institutions.
I get that point.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any guarantee to ensure fairness and accountability? Maybe that's how I should rephrase it.
Yeah.
To make sure that it's not only the children of APC members that will benefit.
That's a really, really good question. So we have a portal, and I will take the liberty of announcing the address. It's www.nelf.gov.ng. It is totally agnostic. When you go to that portal, it doesn't ask you whether you're a member of a political party. It doesn't ask you whether you're a member of a particular tribe, you're from a particular region. It does want to know what gender you are, but it makes absolutely no difference. This is a national program. It's a national welfare scheme that everybody can apply for, everybody. And there's absolutely no way, we manage this, that we know which party you belong to or when you defected, for that matter.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for that. And I do agree that it's a good scheme. A number of countries around the world use or have employed this scheme to ensure that people from disadvantaged areas are not excluded from access to tertiary institutions. So good. However, the devil is in the detail around, disbursement, which Dr. Bati has addressed, but also repayment. Even in countries that are more prosperous or have higher employment numbers than Nigeria, repayment is a big issue.
Sure.
And if you look at past government interventions, loan interventions, recouping has been a big challenge. Even as early as NERSAL, under the COVID funds, getting back the money has been very difficult. And then the terms under which the repayment is tied to is also difficult. 10% of employment post 2 years of NYSC. How many Nigerians have jobs, number one, then are not underemployed such that the take home is enough to take off 10% and still leave them something substantial to take home? How possible, would you not see challenges in being able to get the money back to fund future students under this NELFUND?
Thank you very much. In fact, you just reminded me of the second question that Dr. Abati asked, which was really around repayment and employability. Again, I'll just give a quick background. The reality of it is that we have too many people in Nigeria chasing too few jobs. Okay? The jobs aren't there. Where the jobs are, the people aren't qualified. They're not educated enough or they're not skilled enough. So you find organizations, companies going to bring foreign skills into the country. It's totally unacceptable. One of the things we're trying to address is this skills gap. By providing people with the ability to get an education that they want to get, that is required in the country, what we're actually doing is making people more employable. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the mandate to create jobs. But what we do have the mandate for is to give people the opportunity to be ready for jobs. And that we must focus on. There are other parts of the administration, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, that are the Ministry of Youth Development, who are really focused on trying to do either similar things to us or to actually create work. We want to get Nigerians who are interested in getting an education up to a level where they can actually confidently apply for jobs that are there. So moving on to the second part of your question, which is around this 10%. Let me just quickly explain something. Okay. First of all, the loans that we're giving are interest-free. So the students, the people who apply for these loans, don't have to pay any interest on it. In a double-digit interest economy, that's really very, very, very soft. The second thing is that they don't have to start paying back until 2 years after the completion of their NYSC. So they graduate. They spend 1 year doing NYSC, they get another year to look for work, a second year to look for work, and then in the third year, they're eligible effectively. Or we can actually say, look, we would like you to start looking to pay back. The way the scheme works is that the companies that employ these people go to a register. They put the NIN of the candidate that they want to employ into that. And that NIN tells them, or that database tells them, whether that student has a loan or not. The loan could be $1 million, it could be $500,000, it could be $300,000.
How about those who move abroad? Afterwards.
So I'll come to that.
So
So the
those
10%, I'd like to just clarify on the 10%. 10% of that person's income is paid back to the loan fund whilst they're working. If they stop working, the 10% stops. If they're earning $1 million, they pay 100,000.
I mean, working abroad.
So there are categories that sit outside of this employed people. So we have the self-employed and people who work abroad. We track the accounts of those who apply for the loans with us. Okay, if they move abroad, it's pretty difficult for us to go and get the loans back. But we do expect a certain level of patriotism. We expect us. Yeah. You may laugh.
You ain't gonna get it.
Well, I'm a positive person. And
No,
look,
there's positivism and there's
reality.
so
reality.
let's say it's totally unrealistic. Should that stop us?
No.
That's the first thing.
I'm
The
just
second thing
saying
is,
that these are risks.
it's not a slave contract.
Yeah.
I can't give you a loan and tell you not to go and pursue an opportunity somewhere else.
Okay.
So we are caught in this area of people who will default, but so is everybody else who gives loans.
Okay, we need to go now, but that's not going to be possible. That means you're going to be having bad debt, a lot of bad debt.
Well, we're not a commercial entity.
So let's have
program.
20-30% bad debt capacity. So you're going to lose somebody in all of this. But real quickly, two things. You disbursed about 143 billion. You will have loved to do so much more.
155 billion.
155 billion. You will have loved to do so much more.
Yeah.
How much will it cost you to be able to maximally disburse even to the private institutions and all of that? So can you just tell us the rough estimate? Secondly, let's address the case of corruption spoken around about NELFUND and the schools. Thirdly, the case of the medical students.
Yeah.
The medical bill is quite high.
Yeah.
You guys can't pay all of that bill, so you pay some of them.
Yeah.
But it also leaves a shortfall. So who pays that shortfall? So you can't effectively cover medical students. So let's talk about, there's about 155 billion. How much more in billion will you need to be able to ensure that even going to private schools get the money? And the case of corruption that's been mentioned against you guys, and the case of the medical students that are not getting the full complement of what they require.
Sure, thank you. I think that's a great set of questions, and I'll just try to tackle them one at a time. I don't know how much time I have. But the first question around how much more we need. If we look at this program as a long-term program, so today our exposure is about 300 billion. Okay. I imagine that, if we look at this in the next 7 to 10 years, we'll be looking at $1 trillion. Now, the truth about it is that education is underfunded. Education in this country is not at the standard where it ought to be. Education is not cheap. It's not inexpensive. However, the law allows us to raise funds from the private sector, from philanthropists, from those who are interested in investing in education, either for altruistic reasons or because they want to be able to employ people at the doorstep of their factories. And they can't find those people. So for us, I think the answer to your first question is we're looking to raise probably over the next 7 to 10 years about $1 trillion.
On an annual basis, how much will you need to be able to incorporate those in private schools into it? If you're doing 155 billion thus far, on an annual basis, how much will you need?
I think we could probably safely say we'd need about triple that amount.
So because that's about 400 billion each? 400
billion each,
on an annual basis.
On an annual basis.
But now you're getting about 155.
155 is what we've disbursed.
Okay,
yes.
so let's move to the next question.
Okay.
Yeah. The next question.
Okay.
No, the next question.
The next question. Okay.
The next question.
The next question is the issue of
corruption.
corruption. Okay. So look, wherever there's money, you're always going to get people who want to misappropriate, misdirect, misuse those funds, okay? What we're doing is we're putting structures in place to ensure that we can monitor every naira that comes into the Nigerian Education Loan Fund and monitor to its destination, its intended destination, every naira that we disperse. Beyond that, it's a little bit difficult for us to control it, but I can tell you we disperse to 2 primary targets. The tertiary educational institutions, direct to their bank accounts, electronic footprint all the way, and we disburse to individual students the monthly stipend. Footprint all the way.
So what are you doing about the tertiary institutions that are just keeping the money in the bank accounts and allowing interest accrue for their own benefits?
Well, I cannot attest to the fact that that's actually going on. A newspaper, The Guardian, did an investigation and said, look, we're paying fees for students. The students are not being told that fees are being paid. The ICPC is involved. The EFCC is involved. We don't have powers of arrest, but we're cooperating with them. They're asking us questions. We're giving them data. There have been some recoveries. There have been some detentions. I don't think anyone's been prosecuted.
Mr. Sawyerr.
Yes, Dr. Abati.
Medicine.
Yeah, Mr. Sawyerr.
Medicine. We'll come back to it. I think Dr. Abati is very keen to ask me a question.
All of this is so sugary.
Yes.
So much saccharine.
Yes.
Now,
and honey.
Let me,
Yeah.
let's
just go for all the
just
sweetness.
putting lipstick on everything. Tell
Yes.
us very briefly the challenges that you face, and in spite of all that you have said about being accountable and all of that, there are some students who are saying they don't get the allowances you give them on a regular basis in many universities, and they've spoken up. So tell us your challenges. Are you being properly cash backed? And those students who are complaining, do you think that they are lying about delay in payments?
Please tie the answer to the medical students that are not getting their full funding.
Okay,
also.
so let me quickly address that. You know, when you're dealing with money, we've all been students, okay? If you're expecting money in October and you don't get it, it's a source of frustration. We need to be very clear about this. We give students stipends for the period of time that they are in school. If you apply for the stipend and the amount of time left for you in the session is 3 months, you only get the stipend for 3 months. Some students have gone to the website, to our portal, they've applied for the loan and they've forgotten to apply for the upkeep. They forgot to click the button. Some of them gave us wrong bank account details. We can't disperse for that, but it doesn't mean they're not going to complain. And it doesn't mean they don't have the right to shout. We listen, but we've looked at many of these. The other thing is, because of the staggered nature of sessions in this country, there's some institutions in this country that are still running 2023, 2024, alongside 2024 of 2025. If you apply for both, we're not going to give you a double stipend. And people are in one session, the portal opens for the next session. As soon as you apply for the second, we stop. But it doesn't mean there aren't individual issues. We're properly cash backed. The president has made sure through intervention funding that we have all the cash we need. So we're not, we don't have an issue with that. On the medical student issue.
Very briefly, we are out of time.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, but there's so many things to get through. So if you can say in one line, because I add to that, so we question around students with disabilities. So it's meant to be inclusive and you give loans to students with disabilities. However, there's no support for the support that they need, their aids, they need to access education. So it's almost useless to them. So how do you hope to address this to ensure that not only are they able to get the loans, but they can actually utilize the loans? Very briefly.
Thank you. I like the word hope that you use there because it's a hope. We can't do it now. What we're trying to do is create an equal opportunities platform. And I'll address the medical students issue for you now. We intend at some point, because we recognize that if a person is blind, and they have to get to class, they will probably need a carer with them, who they have to pay the bus fare for to go to school. So what their requirements are double in many cases, or triple what the able-bodied requirements are.
For in welfare area.
So yes, so what we're doing is we're looking at all of this at the moment so we can put a robust plan in place. We're not going to do a firefighting thing. To the question of the medical students, again, it's a resource issue. We don't have enough to pay for medical students. And we're not going to pay for 60 medical students and deprive 600 people who are studying engineering somewhere else. It doesn't make sense. So we're having conversations with the institutions to say, look, let's find a way. Because the other thing we don't want to do is we don't want to make part payments. If we pay 75% of someone's fees and then they can't find the 25%, they're back begging, right? So we want to understand that they can afford the 25% before we put in the majority of the fee.
We need to go.
We do.
Thank you for joining us. I like your passion, your commitment. That in itself says a lot. And it gives us, what is that word you use? Hope.
Hope.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, absolutely.